Order. We start with questions. Secretary of State for Business Trade, Jamie Stone.
Number 1, Mr Speaker.
Minister.
Mr Speaker, businesses in rural areas offer significant potential for growth and are central to our economy. We are working across government to unlock the full potential of rural businesses as part of the government's growth mission. We're committed to launching a business growth service inspired by the US Small Business Administration, which will operate in partnership with devolved governments and the Growth Hub network in England to make it easier to access support from government for all businesses.
Jamie Stone.
Mr Speaker, I do thank the Minister for his answer. In conversation this morning with Trudy Morris, who is the CEO of the Caithness Chamber of Commerce, she outlined the sheer importance of the tourism businesses to the local economy of the Far North of Scotland. The concern that's been expressed to me is the rate of VAT on tourism and similar businesses. And while we don't know if the High Council is going to impose a tourism levy, that could be double whammy. Now, Mr Speaker, I don't expect for one instant the front bench to say, Jamie, you can have a cut on the rate of VAT. But I dream sometimes, Mr Speaker. But I would be grateful for the opportunity of a meeting to discuss the nature of this problem and how we could possibly tackle it. I'd be grateful for that.
Biscuit these days.
I apologise to the honourable gentleman. I can't fulfil his dreams right now, but I'm very happy to meet with him to talk to him about that issue. And I recognise there is considerable interest in that question from the hospitality industry. Happy to meet with him to hear in a bit more detail the particular concerns that were expressed to him.
Shadow Minister Dame Harriett Baldwin.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. The Business Secretary, the Minister, the Chancellor have all said that they want growth, including in rural areas. And, Mr Speaker, I've searched high and low for business growth statistics since the budget of broken promises, and I find that in the last quarter there has been a 50% growth in businesses in critical financial distress. Why does the Minister think that is?
Well, I say gently to the honourable lady that the difficult decisions that we had to take in the budget were perhaps, interestingly, particularly well explained by her former colleague, Kwasi Kwarteng, who made clear that he thought the difficult decisions that my honourable friend, right honourable friend, the Chancellor had to take in the budget were because of the mistakes that he and the party opposite had made when they were in government.
Shaun Davies.
Number 2, sir.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. It was a good night for Villa fans last night, so congratulations to anyone in the West Midlands who supports them, as my husband does. The West Midlands, in many ways, leads the country on manufacturing, and it has one of the UK's largest specialist workforce, whether it's automotive, whether it's aerospace, whether it's rail supply chain, incredibly important area. Of course, we've invested in the West Midlands investment zone, made smarter, the high-value manufacturing catapult is all there, but we want to keep breaking down barriers to growth in the West Midlands, which is why advanced manufacturing is such a key part of the industrial strategy that we will be announcing soon.
In Telford and the wider West Midlands, we have a strong and proud British manufacturing base, as the Minister just outlined. One of the biggest challenges that I hear from businesses is the unequal playing field between us and the rest of the world in terms of pay rates and regulation. Clearly, no one wants a race to the bottom. So will this government back British business to ensure that we sell more, make more, and do that in the West Midlands and Telford in particular?
Minister.
So my honourable friend is absolutely right. We do not want a race to the bottom. Advanced manufacturing jobs in the West Midlands are well paid for a reason, because they're very highly skilled workforce, and we want to protect and grow that. But he's right that there's more that we can do. Of course, there was £2 billion in the budget set aside for the automotive sector, just shy of £1 billion on aerospace, which will help. But we can reduce those barriers more, whether it's regulation, whether it's planning, whether it's trading and exports, and we are working as fast as we can to do just that.
Sir Gavin.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. In Staffordshire and the West Midlands, we're the only part of the country that's a net exporter in terms of manufactured goods, and the threat from Trump in terms of tariffs could have a significant impact in terms of manufacturers right across Staffordshire and the West Midlands. What action is the government taking to ensure that we'll continue to export our world-leading products?
Well, the right honourable gentleman is right. The West Midlands is a big exporter into many different countries, including the US and others. And of course, we will keep talking with the US, as the Secretary of State has been doing, and make sure we are standing up for British industry and doing the right thing.
Callum Anderson.
Question number 3, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The regulatory environment is not working as well as it should. Unnecessary red tape is choking competitiveness, creating unnecessary burdens for business and putting up barriers to growth. That is why we are introducing a government-wide target to reduce the administrative costs of regulation by 25% by the end of this Parliament. This will be supported by a baselining exercise to understand the administrative costs of regulation to businesses. The Prime Minister will be setting out more details later today. This is just the beginning. Details of our ambitious action plan to reform the regulatory landscape will be set out shortly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Minister for his statement. Over 8 years and 4 Prime Ministers, the last Conservative government commissioned review after review after review into UK corporate governance and audit and delivered absolutely nothing. But for the UK PLC to be globally competitive, we do need strong, robust corporate governance frameworks which balance the needs of investors and society of information with the administrative burdens on companies. So can the Minister update the House on what progress his department is making on bringing forward an audit reform and corporate governance bill?
Thank my honourable friend for his question. As he's right to recognise, this has been around for some time, and the government has announced its intention to publish a draft audit reform and corporate governance bill for scrutiny in this session. Investors and the public need access to truthful reporting from our most important businesses on their finances and related issues. My department is continuing to progress this important work, and a timetable for publication of the bill will be confirmed in the usual way for draft legislation in due course.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Since leaving the European Union, we are progressively diverging passively, simply not because we are making an active decision to diverge, because it's good for us, but because we cannot keep up with the number of regulations coming through the European Union. Now, that has been particularly disadvantageous for energy trading. What conversations has the Minister had with colleagues in government around aligning with the EU on emissions trading?
That's an important question. My honourable friend is in charge of that particular area, and it's one of the discussions that we're having as part of the EU reset.
Dr. Rupert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Number 4, please.
Minister.
With your permission, Mr. Speaker, I'll respond to questions 4 and 16 together. Working across government, we're determined to revitalise our high streets and support the businesses on them. We're working with industry to create a fairer business rate system that protects the high street and supports investment. We've introduced the Police and Crime Bill, which will give better protection for businesses and retail workers against assault and theft, and our forthcoming small business strategy will set out our plan for further supporting small businesses on the high street and beyond.
From 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. daily, the Patel's newsagent off-licence post office was an Acton staple until Horizon slapped them with a £123,000 demand, and she had a series of mini-strokes. Can ministers look into their compensation rejected because he was the postmaster, and also show their love for high street heroes everywhere by attending the APPG Ethnic Business Tea on the 3rd of April? You're welcome too, Mr. Speaker.
Except on behalf of the Speaker.
Well, I'm very grateful to my honourable friend for raising the case of the Patels. I'm very keen to see that any sub-postmaster who was a victim of the Horizon scandal gets access to the compensation they rightly deserve as quickly as possible. She will understand that I can't comment on individual cases, but if she wants to write to me about the specific case in her constituency, I'll very happily look into it further and be happy to discuss it with her.
Bradley Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There are over 70 pubs across Bromsgrove and the villages, and one of them in particular, the Queen's Head, is facing a staggering £42,000 annual increase in the cost of business rates and national insurance contributions as a result of choices made by this government. This is on top of increasing concerns around a banter ban. Can the Minister confirm to me that nobody will be ejected from a pub or hospitality venue for sharing a joke? And can the Minister outline what steps he is taking to support pubs rather than putting them out of business?
Well, I just note in passing that under the party opposite, over 10,000 pubs closed their doors. So I don't think the pub industry is looking to the honourable gentleman's party for guidance going forward. I gently say to him, in terms of some of the specifics that he asked, he will be aware of our plans to bring in business rates reform, which will help many pubs. Will see will make a significant difference for those pubs going forward. On the so-called banter ban, I would gently suggest that he shouldn't believe everything he reads in the newspapers.
Shelley James.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pubs and restaurants are part of a thriving high street in Doncaster, which is known for its iconic nightlife. So will the Minister set out what measures the Department is taking to make sure that high streets continue to thrive and also to support hospitality more generally? And can I invite him to come to Doncaster to see how nightlife is done properly?
I will give very careful consideration to my honourable friend's very generous offer. In answer to the previous questioner, I mentioned the issue of business rates reform, which could make a significant difference for many businesses in the nighttime economy. One of the other crucial issues that we want to tackle is the rise in crime and antisocial behaviour on our high streets. And as she will know, the Crime and Disorder Bill that is beginning its journey through Parliament will make a significant difference in that regard.
So Roger Gale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The High Street Trader, the John Lewis Partnership, is announcing its annual results today. It is a highly successful business, but this year it will not be paying a dividend to its partners, the workforce, because it has to absorb national insurance costs. Does the Minister understand the real impact upon what his party likes to describe as ordinary working people that NIC increases are having?
I say gently to the honourable gentleman and his colleagues in the party opposite, we had to take difficult decisions in the budget in terms of increasing employer national insurance contributions because of the mess his party left this country in. His Shadow Secretary of State for Business and Trade helped to write the Liz Truss budget, which did so much damage to our country and which we're trying to sort the mess out. The Shadow Secretary of State still hasn't apologised for his part in that fiasco. He should take the opportunity of his questions in this House to do so.
Shadow Minister Greg Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, the owner of the hugely popular Rumses, who are celebrating 21 years on Wendover High Street in my constituency, emailed me to say, and I quote, "We estimate the changes coming in April will add 15% onto our staff costs that we simply don't have. Therefore, we have had to sadly make redundancies, put in a recruitment freeze and implement staff hour cuts to offset this. With real-world testimony like this replicated up and down the country, will the Minister finally agree that an urgent change of course is needed to actually support high streets, scrap the employers' NI rise, save jobs and protect communities?"
Minister.
I gently say to the honourable gentleman, it would be interesting to know whether he regrets now the enthusiastic support he gave to the Liz Truss budget, which did so much damage to our country's public finances, and which the budget in October last year is having had to start the process of sorting out those situations. I have to say gently, I looked with interest at his particular website just recently, and on his website is a section that says "My Plan." It's completely blank. Probably a better situation than given that he supported so strongly the Liz Truss budget. There is at least a bit of progress in that regard.
Well, Mr. Speaker, absolutely no answer to my question whatsoever. It's almost like they haven't yet realised they're in charge, and it's their decisions that are having this impact. So let me tell him something else that Rumses reported to me. I quote, "The reduction in business rate relief will leave me no choice but to raise prices simply to break even, further limiting growth and accessibility for customers." I just don't know how much more the Minister needs to hear to understand the scale of the problem on our high streets. He talks of business rate reform, but the only business rate change we've seen is this devastating cut to business rate relief, which is hurting high streets now. So will he reverse it?
Zero under you.
Well, had the Honourable Gentleman's Party been elected, retail, hospitality and leisure relief was going to come to an end. We have extended retail, hospitality and leisure relief. We've set out in the budget our plans to permanently lower tax rates for retail, hospitality and leisure properties from 26-27, specifically to the High Street. We're taking measures to tackle crime and antisocial behaviour on the High Street, which his party could have done more to tackle. They chose not to do so. We're bringing in new legislation to end the immunity for crime on the High Street, for shoplifters, bringing in stealing £200 or less, and we're making it an offence, a specific offence for violence against retail shop workers, deliberately to try and make it easier for businesses operating on the High Street.
Kenneth Stevenson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question 5.
Secretary of State.
Thank you. With your permission, Mr. Speaker, I'll answer questions 5 and 6 together. Over 3 million workers are expected to receive a pay rise due to increases to the national minimum wage in April, protecting the lowest paid in society. After our changes to the remit, we accepted the recommendations of the LPC in full, who consider the impact of rates on business, on competitiveness, on the labour market, wider economy and the cost of living. Now, our impact assessments are only available by region, estimates by constituency are not available. But the simple truth is, Mr. Speaker, that workers in every constituency are better off under this Labour government.
Kenneth Stevenson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I thank the Secretary of State for that answer. Just yesterday, Parliament approved Labour's New Deal for working people, the biggest upgrade to workers' rights in a generation. This will see a pay rise for over 200,000 working Scots, many in the Airdrie and Shotts constituency, and a marked improvement to terms and conditions which will be beneficial to our young workforce. Does he agree with me that with a government committed to improving the pay, terms and conditions of workers across the country, the working people of Airdrie and Shotts will always get a better deal with Labour?
Well, I thank my honourable friend for his question. The plan to make work pay is a core part of our mission to grow the economy, to raise living standards and to create opportunities for all. And there will be significant benefits for workers in insecure and low-paid jobs in central Scotland, including in Airdrie and Shotts. This plan is about making people stay in work. It's about making work more secure, more family-friendly, improving living standards and putting more money in workers' pockets. But it's also about showing people that politics can work for people who maybe have given up on this place being something that can improve their living standards, their lives and that of their families. And of that, I'm very proud of this government.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker, the 6.7% increase in the national living wage in April clearly shows that this Labour government is on the side of working people in North Durham and across the country and is making work pay. Can the Minister tell me how many families in the North East of England will benefit from the increase in the national living wage and national minimum wage next month?
I also thank my honourable friend for his support for the North East of England. It's around 140,000 workers who will feel the benefits of this direct pay rise. And I would also say to him, I know his North Durham constituency well. I'm no stranger to Chesley Street. And not only will his constituents get a pay rise, but his local shops, his restaurants, his pubs and more will get what they need most of all, which is customers who've got a bit of money to spend in them.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last Friday, I spent the day visiting local shopkeepers in Kelso, many of whom employ their staff in the national minimum wage and the national living wage. But their biggest pressure just now is dealing with this Labour government's national insurance hike. They are facing a very difficult choice between whether they continue to employ people or not. So what's the message from the Minister to those hard-working local shopkeepers?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the thing I would cite most of all to his constituents would be the doubling of employment allowance in the budget and the threshold being removed, which means for smaller businesses, they will actually in some cases be paying lower national insurance contributions than they would have been before the budget. I would, however, never shy away from the fact that the kind of choices we had to make in the budget were out of necessity. They were out of the black hole that was left behind. I am yet to hear any offer from the party opposite as to how they would fill it. And, Mr. Speaker, at these questions, we'll talk about tripling compensation for post office victims of the Horizon scandal, only because the money is there and it wasn't under the party opposite. We will talk about money for the steel industry, standing behind the steel industry. Again, money promised but wasn't delivered. If you make these promises, you have to have the resources there to do them. If they weren't there under the party opposite, they are under ourselves.
A bit more.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Whether it be the increase in the minimum wage, the increase in employers' national insurance, the increase in business rates, or indeed the changes that have been made to the Employment Rights Bill, all of these measures collectively are negatively penalising many businesses across my constituency, whether it be in Keighley, Ilkley or further afield. And this is resulting in redundancies having to be made, or indeed the price of services or products having to be increased. And these businesses cannot absorb the additional increase that this Labour government is putting on them. So did the government undertake any economic impact assessment that all of these measures collectively were going to have on hard-working businesses across my constituency?
Well, I say to him, as I've said to members opposite before, of course, we are very sensitive to the aggregate impact of government policy, because frankly, observing the Conservative governments of the previous 14 years, I thought they completely missed this point, and at many times they had different government departments doing completely opposing things. I want to say something specific on business rates. There was no business rates relief planned under the Conservative Party if they won the election. The reduction to 40% was an increase in what was in the national accounts. Again, short-term decisions for short-term partisan political benefit, no serious plan for the future. I do just want to say to him as well, he will have seen the figures from the Insolvency Service this week. And I think they're very interesting, because what they show is that fewer people have been made redundant in the last 12 months than in the year before. So the doom-mongers of the Conservative Party have, I'm afraid, been proved absolutely wrong by the statistics that we have.
Question number 7, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Government is committed to supporting micro-businesses to comply with the General Product Safety Regulation. For Northern Ireland, we have published additional guidance for businesses and will publish an update in the coming weeks in light of feedback that we have received. We will continue to engage businesses to ensure that they can trade freely across the UK. Businesses targeting the EU market may use the government's export support service. Since October 2024, the Department's Export Academy delivered 8 free online GPSR training sessions to almost 5,000 attendees.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the Minister for his answer. One of my constituents, George Stevens, runs a micro-business in Lydd making handcrafted stringed instruments, which has been running for over 30 years, and he has many EU customers. He is deeply worried about Brexit-related red tape, which is holding back his EU export. So would the Minister be able to give him an assurance that in the light of the measures that have been proposed, he's going to find it easier to trade now with the EU?
Minister.
I thank my honourable friend for his question. Micro-businesses like Mr Stevens are central to the government's growth mission. We are committed to strengthening our relationship with the EU to tackle trade barriers and frictions, and we regularly engage directly with businesses and their representative organisations to understand the difficulties that they are facing. Our export support services help SMEs to navigate opportunities in EU markets and get the practical help they need to do so. For example, the Unlock Europe programme was launched in December as part of the Export Academy, which offers practical guidance that will help UK businesses enhance their exporting potential to the EU.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our country's very high electricity costs are another huge problem that our businesses face in my constituency of Witney and nationally. Reintegrating our power markets with Europe's through the single day-ahead coupling system will cost our country nothing, will save costs for our businesses, will reduce CO2 and make our power markets more efficient. Will the Minister take fast steps to reintegrate our electricity markets with our European neighbours?
Minister.
I thank the honourable member for his quite tangential question relating to GPSR, but he does make an important point about energy costs, and we are working closely with the EU about how we can build on that. And of course, the industrial strategy will also be looking very, very closely at how energy costs are brought down for businesses.
Number 8, please, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The plan to make work pay is central to our plan for change, to grow the economy, raise living standards and create opportunities for all. It will tackle low pay, poor working conditions and job security, creating long-term growth and investment to support businesses. Insights gained from our ongoing engagement with businesses will help us ensure proportionate, effective policy. Our plan to make work pay will ensure a level playing field so employers trying to do the right thing are not undercut.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I sent a survey about how this government has treated business to every registered company in the Weald of Kent, and they are terrified. 80% of them, 4 in 5, are less likely to hire following soaring taxes and the truly dire Employment Rights Bill. The Regulatory Policy Committee found the government's own impact assessment for the Employment Rights Bill not fit for purpose. Will the Minister then conduct a proper assessment of the damage this bill will do, or should I send him mine?
Well, I'm always grateful for advice. If she's conducting surveys, she might want to look at the survey which said that 76 of her constituents supported the plans in the Employment Rights Bill to bring in day one rights for 6 pay. The importance of this bill cannot be understated. We have got a plan to bring businesses up to a standard where actually work is respected, people have security and dignity, and the Honourable Lady can't understand that. She needs to get out a bit more.
George Stewbury.
Number 9, please, Mr. Speaker.
Front bench, who's having it?
Right. Apologies, Mr. Speaker. Yes, the government is committed to simplifying the process and law around trade union recognition so that working people have a more meaningful right to organise through trade unions, and I, of course, refer to my register of interest in that respect. Through the Employment Rights Bill, we are reforming the process for statutory recognition applications with existing thresholds presenting too high a hurdle in modern workplaces that are increasingly fragmented. We're also taking steps to strengthen protections against unfair practices during the recognition process, which we debated at length yesterday.
I thank the Minister for that response, because in January, Bidfood, a food wholesaler and major employer in my constituency of Cannock Chase, announced overnight they were de-recognising the GMB and Unite the Union, removing the ability of thousands of workers across the country to collectively bargain through their trade unions. The unions fear that Bidfood workers could now be left at risk of fire and rehire before protections of this government's Employment Rights Bill come into force. So would the Minister agree with me that employers should not be trying to dodge protections under the government's plan to make work pay, and would he join me in supporting the GMB and Unite as they seek to protect their workers at Bidfood?
I thank my humble friend for his question, and whilst he will understand I cannot comment on individual cases, I am deeply troubled by what he has said, and I can be clear, the government is determined to reset industrial relations so that employers and trade unions work together in partnership rather than in conflict, as we have heard. We would encourage all employers to engage with unions in the spirit of cooperation and collaboration. Working in this way benefits employers and workers alike. And as he knows, the Employment Rights Bill will end unscrupulous practices of fire and rehire, which have no place in a modern economy and workplace. So if any company is thinking of doing that, they should think again.
Jim Shannon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I very much welcome the Minister's response. Whenever I after working in my mum and dad's shop, and then I joined the firm Henry Denny, I was required to join the union. I wasn't sure until I joined the union. When I joined the union, I found out that the union actually backed me as a worker against the employers whenever they were bringing in things that were wrong. So I would encourage everybody who joins a workforce to join the union, because they will protect you whenever you need help.
Well, I think the honourable member couldn't have put it better. He's absolutely explained the benefits of trade union membership, something that the benches over there clearly don't understand.
Found the House tremblingly.
Mr. Speaker, with your permission, I'll answer questions 10 and 16 together. We're creating a fairer business rate system, reducing alcohol duty on qualifying draft products, and our forthcoming small business strategy will set out our plan for further supporting small businesses on the high street and beyond. In addition, through the Hospitality Sector Council, we are addressing with business strategic issues related to high street regeneration, skills, sustainability and productivity, and we have recently, Mr. Speaker, saved the pint.
It's 10 and 15, Minister.
Obviously, the Minister's working very hard, but he looks a bit tired. So, could I offer him some Lincolnshire hospitality to come and stay for a glorious weekend in one of our farm cottages to enjoy our great skies and bracing air, and to help our distressed farmers who need the income, frankly? The problem is that the government has abolished the furnished holiday letting scheme, which was a tremendous encouragement for the countryside. I don't expect an answer now, but will he consider approaching his friend the Chancellor in the budget and seeing if we can reinstate it to help our farmers and the countryside?
Well, unusually for the party opposite, the Right Honourable Gentleman has made an extremely generous offer. And I am almost as tempted by that as I am the offer from my honourable friend to visit Doncaster. I am very happy to look at the issue that the Right Honourable Gentleman has raised, and I will write to him with more details.
David Reid.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Krusty Cobb Bakery has been a constant in East Devon for the past 55 years. But last week, the family-run business closed the doors on all 9 of their shops, making over 100 local people redundant. The owners state a panoply of issues manufacturing to reduce high street footfall to energy prices. And the kicker is the decision this business secretary party has made to slam companies with increases to national living wage and employers' national insurance contributions. Mr. Speaker, the effects of this Labour government's decisions are setting in, and they are literally destroying working family businesses. So can the Business Secretary and Minister please give a message to the Krusty Cobb team who have just lost their jobs?
Well, I understand it will be an extremely worrying time for employees and families of the Krusty Cobb. I gently say to the Honourable Gentleman that we are offering a 40% discount to retail, hospitality and leisure properties as part of our business rates package. We're going to reform business rates more substantially with a permanently lower multiplier in 2026, which, whilst that won't clearly help the Krusty Cobb and its employees, will help other businesses on the high street going forward. I am slightly surprised that the Honourable Gentleman should be so opposed to an increase in the living wage. I don't know whether that's his party's policy or not. I would also gently remind him of the ONS data that my right honourable friend pointed out, showing more people in jobs this year compared to last year.
Sir David Davies.
Number 11, sir.
Yeah.
In the past 8 months, we have trebled the total amount of compensation paid and ensured more than 2,300 victims who had as yet received nothing have now had some financial redress. We're making upfront fixed sum offers and interim payments where possible to speed up the delivery of redress. There is, though, still a lot more to do, and we remain committed to ensuring swift and fair redress for every postmaster affected by the Horizon scandal.
Sir David.
Thank the Minister for that answer. He and I would agree that the Post Office Horizon scandal is one of the greatest miscarriages of modern times in terms of justice. But the problems in the Post Office and its injustice extend far beyond that. 21 cases relating to the precursor system, the capture system, have been referred to the Criminal Cases Review Commission, and those cases bear the same hallmarks as the Horizon scandal. I'm afraid the CCRC is famous for taking years to come to obvious decisions. So can the Minister tell me that the CCRC will deal with this in months, and if not, will his department intervene directly?
Well, the Right Honourable Gentleman is absolutely right to raise the issue of capture. As he will know, we've published our response to the independent Kroll report into the capture software issue and the way the Post Office responded to the data that came out of that software. We have been meeting with sub-postmasters who used the capture system and who were the victims in that regard to talk through a redress scheme with them. We are also working closely with the Criminal Cases Review Commission and have made clear to the Post Office that they must cooperate with requests from the CCRC so that we can speed up their deliberations around the 21 cases.
Rita.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I recently met with a constituent who is a former postmaster affected by the Horizon scandal. He has applied for compensation but feels the process is taking too long with unreasonable asks. Given the legal ruling that postmasters should be afforded the benefit of the doubt, what steps is the department taking to ensure compensation claims are processed fairly without delays that could further affect the victims?
Well, as my honourable friend will know, we inherited a compensation process that was perceived by many sub-postmasters as being slow, legalistic and adversarial. And so we have already taken a series of steps to try and speed things up, particularly in terms of trying to get out more fixed sum payments For example, moving more staff in to support the work around the compensation process. If my honourable friend wants me to look in more detail at a particular case in her constituency, I would be very happy to do so.
Dame Harriett Baldwin, Shadow Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The Business Secretary met recently with Fujitsu in Japan, and Fujitsu developed the Faulty Horizon system and have offered to contribute to the compensation for victims. So could the Minister tell the House how much the Secretary of State has asked them to contribute so that taxpayers aren't on the hook for £1 billion?
The Honourable Lady rightly references the discussions that my right honourable friend had with the Chief Executive Officer of Fujitsu. They have agreed to begin talks on the company's contribution to the costs of compensation. She will understand that we also need to wait for Sir Williams' inquiry to conclude and his recommendations in regard of compensation from Fujitsu to be heard and understood as well. She will also understand, I'm sure, I'm not going to give a running commentary on the discussions with Fujitsu, but I welcome the fact that they have agreed to begin talks in this area.
Alex Speaker.
Number 12, Mr. Speaker.
State.
With your permission, Mr. Speaker, I'll answer questions 12 and 14 together. Small businesses need a better deal, certainly better than the one they got from the last government, and our small business strategy due this year is designed to do that. We've already provided more support through the British Business Bank. We've worked with the FSB to take action on issues like late payment, as well as on retail crime. And we've also announced the creation of the new Business Growth Service, which aims to transform business support services. Later today, I'll be attending our Small Business Summit in Sussex to progress these plans and meet with small business leaders.
Alex Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Too many small and medium-sized defence businesses in my community struggle to get access to the banking and finance facilities they need, often on the basis of self-imposed ethical criteria. Will the Business Secretary join me in welcoming how many investors and financial institutions have responded to the campaign I am leading with my honourable friend, the member for York Outer, and 100 other Labour parliamentarians, calling on our banks and our fund managers to broaden their approach to defence investment? Will he call on investors to take action so that we can defend our country, support Ukraine and fire up our industrial base?
Well, I agree with her 100% and thank her very much for that question. She will know that my department, alongside the Treasury and the Ministry of Defence, convened a roundtable in December to listen to these perspectives, and we're now all three departments working together to ensure the problems that she articulates do not happen. I think it is essential, Mr. Speaker, that the British people don't think that the substantial and significant and historic investments in defence this government are making come in some way at the expense of domestic prosperity. There is no prosperity without security, but we should also reflect the tremendous economic contribution made by our defence sector. There's not a foreign and domestic split in this regard. I want to thank her for her outstanding leadership in galvanising parliamentary support for this, and I would say I hope this is something that will have unanimous agreement in every part of this House.
Dr. Gavin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the Minister is aware, the ceramics industry, including in my constituency of Stoke-on-Trent South, is facing immense competition from imported counterfeit goods, many of which contain false back stamps which mislead consumers and, as a GMB union raised with me, threatens great British companies such as Danone, Duchess and many others. Will the Minister meet with me again to discuss in more detail tabling offences and regulation against imported counterfeit ceramic goods?
Well, I thank my honourable friend for that question. My department has a very strong relationship with the ceramics sector and the energy-intensive users group. We regularly meet with them, and I'd also like to mention the British Ceramics Federation and our old friend Rob Flello, who's a hugely strong voice for the sector. There are many challenges for ceramics, not least in decarbonisation, but on the subject of consumer protection, UK consumer law for firms, wherever they're located, it is firmly against our laws to give consumers false information, such as with fake product markings. We have strengthened the regime in this regard with new enforcement powers for the Competition and Markets Authority, which come into force next month, but I, of course, will get her any meeting she requires.
Gavin Mahindra.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One of my constituents in Chorlwood recently contacted me after needing an emergency locksmith due to a broken key. Initially quoted £40 over the phone, she was later charged £1,460 and was only given the new key after making the payment. While I applaud this government's ambition to reduce regulation, can we make sure that there is appropriate regulation so that consumers are not unfairly overcharged, as in this instance?
Thank the member very much for his question. I too have seen the kind of stories he articulates there, and there are definitely concerns in that regard. Broadly on the government's regulation agenda, it's not about necessarily deregulation, but about effective and proportionate regulation. And I do feel our regulatory sector has grown a lot in recent years. I don't think it always is something which compares well to other countries in terms of timeliness, business response, and that's the agenda that we are pursuing. But I'll certainly write to him about the issues that he raises, which I think are very relevant, and appreciate the chance to do so and raise those today.
Alison Bunn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Many families are supported by the work of my constituents, Alison and Kevin, who run a small care business. They tell me they are already operating on tight margins in a sector under huge pressure. The hike in employer national insurance contributions will force them to make tough decisions on staffing and very simply reduce the amount of care they can offer. Kevin and Alison rightly say that this, at a time when the government tells us they want to move to community care provision and get people out of hospitals, makes no sense. Does the Secretary of State not agree?
Well, I thank her for her question. I thank Alison and Kevin for the work that they do, which is clearly very important. We've talked already in this oral question session about the difficult choices the government faced, the unenviable choices that had to be made. Health and social care is one of the areas that was a beneficiary of the additional revenue that needed to be raised in order to fill some of the challenges that we face. But we're not casual about the impact of that. We recognise the pressures that come from that. And I would say I don't agree. Taxes have to apply to every sector. You can't carve out certain sectors from them. But I appreciate the pressures she articulates. That's why the rest of the government's agenda is set to address all of those factors.
Jones, Liberal Democrat spokesperson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Small businesses are the backbone of the British economy. Up and down the country, we have success stories of innovative start-ups and family-run businesses that should be part of the government's plan to get Britain growing again. Yet under the Conservatives, between 2021 and 2024, the number of small businesses in my constituency decreased by 360. The Tories messed up our national and local economy. Is the Minister concerned that his government's national insurance rises will damage the economy just as the Conservatives did?
Well, I thank the honourable member for his question. If we were listing the kind of difficult things small businesses had to deal with in the previous 14 years, we'd be here for most of the day and the weekend, if we're being honest, don't we? Whether it's on how they handled Brexit, the mini-budget, austerity, here we could go on and on. I would say to him that we are not casual about what we've had to ask of business because of the unenviable situation we inherited. But the fundamentals of the UK are incredibly strong in terms of political stability, openness to the world, changes to planning, skills, regulation, energy, in order to make sure we're delivering for it. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker.
The Treasury published in November 2024 a tax information and impact note alongside the introduction of the bill containing the employer national insurance contribution changes. This sets out the impact of the policy on the Exchequer and the impacts on business, and that approach is consistent with previous tax changes.
That I hear from SMEs in my constituency, predominantly in the visitor economy, is that they are anticipating cutting the hours of part-time staff, laying them off, reducing the number of seasonal employees that they will take on. Will the Minister take these concerns seriously and work with ministers in the Scottish Government to ensure that the legitimate concerns that SMEs in my constituency have do not blossom into a full-blown crisis of confidence?
Minister.
Well, I'm always happy to work with the Scottish Government and other devolved governments too on how we can improve the business environment. I'm sure he will want to join with me in encouraging the government in Scotland to mirror the changes that we have made in terms of business rates relief. Given the sizable increase in the Scottish budget, it is somewhat surprising that the SNP have not been willing to support the retail sector through an extension of retail hospitality relief.
McNally.
Question number 18, Mr Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The Government is committed to supporting investment in Scotland in line with our growth mission. The Prime Minister recently announced that the National Wealth Fund will provide £200 million of investment in new opportunities in Grangemouth in particular. This announcement came alongside the recently announced £55 million grant for the Port of Cromarty Firth, the two investment zones receiving £80 million over the next 5 years, and our expanded Office for Investment.
McNally.
Speaker, I'm grateful to my honourable friend for that answer. The National Wealth Fund has recently invested £43.5 million in Pulpex Limited to construct a sustainable packaging facility near Glasgow, which is a much welcome move and will support jobs and growth. Can the Minister outline what further measures are planned to attract similar green industry investments to communities like my own in North Lanarkshire, which is Scotland's fastest growing economy?
Mr Speaker, my honourable friend is a tireless advocate for the communities of Coatbridge and Bells Hill, and I can assure him that the National Wealth Fund's Strategic Partnerships trial will see each local authority, including North Lanarkshire, within the Glasgow City region being invited to submit project proposals, including projects focused on, I hesitate to say, green jobs in Coatbridge.
Come to topicals, John Morris.
Mr Speaker, my department works night and day to deliver our plan for change by making Britain the best place to invest, work and do business in. Under this government, we have provided political stability, openness to the world, and we are continually improving the business environment. Since our last questions, we published a new steer for the CMA, so it has growth and investment in mind, and more pro-business regulatory reforms will follow. Last month in Delhi, I relaunched our trade negotiations with India, and I've just returned from Tokyo, where the Foreign Secretary and I announced a first-of-its-kind industrial strategy partnership with Japan. We're also ensuring our Make Work Pay reforms deliver for both businesses and workers. And finally, we've engaged closely with the new US administration, including Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and the new US Trade Representative Jameson Greer. The new trade policy of the US is challenging. We believe our decision to engage and seek potential agreement on a new economic deal between the UK and the US offers us an opportunity to ensure the UK is the best connected market in the world.
John Morris.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Businesses across Beaconsfield, Marlow and the South Bucks villages are facing crippling costs from the government's national insurance tax rate and the Employment Rights Bill. Can the Secretary of State reassure or advise my businesses? Should they stop hiring, cut staff, increase prices, or all of the above?
Well, I'd say businesses in a constituency should contact their local Conservative MP, and they should say, what was your plan? Because I think we've had 3 oral question sessions now where this has broadly been the only thing Conservatives have to say. And I just genuinely want to know, what was the plan to pay for post office compensation? What was the plan to pay for the steel industry? When you commissioned the public sector pay bodies with the remit that you gave them and got the findings back and hid it and didn't tell the British people during a general election campaign, what was the plan? How would you have reconciled that? The small business leaders, businesses of every size in her constituency, know how to make difficult decisions.
Look, this is getting ridiculous. It's topicals. And that is the worst example I've seen as a topical. Let's see Steve Ray's.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The South West has a huge number of innovative start-up and scale-up businesses, but we only attract about 3% of private equity and venture capital funding per year. Can I ask what the Department is doing to ensure that foreign direct investors are aware of and have access to the fantastic business infrastructure opportunities that we do have in Exeter across the South West?
I saw many of these incredible businesses when I went to the Exeter Business Park last year. When I was in Saudi in January, I was with a range of businesses, including many from the South West, who were talking and promoting investment. And I think there's more we can do, but there's some brilliant people there who are doing brilliant things, and I think we can go further, and I'm certainly very happy to work with him on that.
To the Secretary of State, Andrew Griffiths.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. How have we got to this point? After 35 weeks as Trade Secretary, 18 weeks since the US election, an entire month since steel and aluminium tariffs were first announced, the Secretary of State is only now going to sit down with the Secretary of Commerce of our closest ally. Whilst he's been correcting his CV, steel workers and businesses are hurting today. This is a colossal failure of trade policy on his watch. Why has this taken so long, and when can we expect an agreement?
The honourable gentleman may have not seen some news recently, but the UK has had the best engagement of any country with new US administration, led by our Prime Minister. And isn't it good to see again a British Prime Minister respected on the world stage, delivering for Britain? We've had tremendous engagement with the new US administration. I'm looking forward to meeting them in person next week.
Andrew Griffiths.
Once again, Mr. Speaker, no answers come there forth. Over 1 million jobs in this country depend on trade with the United States, thousands of jobs in our steel industry. He doesn't know when he's going to get a deal. Will he publish his red lines for that deal, his objectives, and what he hopes to achieve from meetings next week?
Let me say on iron, steel and aluminium tariffs, the US position is no exemptions for anybody. That is across the board. They recognise, I think, a very strong case that we have, but that is their position. No, I will not publish my negotiating red lines before a negotiation. That is, quite frankly, the worst advice I've ever heard in the House of Commons. I'll also just say the Conservative Party fell out with the EU. It wouldn't deal with China. It couldn't do a deal with India. It fell out with the UAE and couldn't do a deal with the Gulf. It got nothing out the US. It did deals with Australia and New Zealand, then disowned them. We'll take no lessons from you, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Social enterprises contribute to 3.4% of GDP, and towns like Leigh and Atherton benefit greatly from them. So will the Minister outline what his department is doing to support social enterprise and cooperatives in order for them to contribute to the growth agenda in the UK?
Mr. Speaker, I know my honourable friend is a great champion of the social enterprise sector. She will know that we are committed to doubling the size of the co-op and mutual sector. We've recently met with the recently launched Mutuals and Co-op Business Council to begin working with businesses on our plans to expand the co-op and mutual sector. She may also be aware that we have our Social Enterprise Boost Fund, currently spending some £4 million helping to support social enterprises that are already up and running.
Clive Jones, Liberal Democrats, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If the government have to push forward with retaliatory measures against the United States for their steel tariffs, they must strike at the political allies of the President to meaningfully move on the conversation. Can the Secretary of State confirm if Elon Musk's Tesla are being considered as a potential target for retaliatory measures?
Mr. Speaker, we reserve the right to take any action in response to any changes to our trading relationships. But I do think we can look to the opportunity the UK has, which is greater than any other country, to get to an agreement that improves our terms of trade with the US. I reserve all rights to take any action, but I think we can look forward in a positive way to improving that trade relationship, and that right now is my message and focus.
Right. Let's come to Chris Blow.
Chris Blow.
They shouldn't be next to each other on the order paper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Fly-by-night haulage based in Redditch are trusted to deliver by the biggest names in music, TV and theatre. However, post-Brexit rules on visa and work permits are damaging the creative industries on the continent. Would the Minister agree to meet with me to discuss how we can break the logjam and support British success stories like Fly-by-night?
It is Chris Blow, and I'm following the register because I'm going from side to side. Chris Law will come after. He's not next.
Many Chris's. Thank the honourable friend for his question. He will know creative industries are part of our industrial strategy. We're hugely proud of the soft power and economic impact they have, and of course we'll get him that meeting he requests.
Right. Let's try Mike Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I draw the House's attention to my entry in the Register of Members' Interests. 66% of hospitality firms say that they're going to have to cut staff or staff hours, 75% will cut investment, and 97% will increase prices because of the Chancellor's manifesto breaking national insurance increases. What assessment has the Minister made of the number of workers being dragged into national insurance contributions for the first time? And if he must continue with this disastrous policy, will they at least delay for 12 months to bring it in line with the introduction of the business rate reforms?
Well, we have had one or two other questions in this particular topic, and he will therefore not be surprised by the answer that I give him, which is to gently point out that the difficult decisions we took on the budget in terms of employers' national insurance contributions were a direct result of the mess that the party opposite, which he supported so enthusiastically, left this House.
Jenny Riddle-Carpenter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The big six supermarkets are acting like a cartel, forcing unfair prices on farmers and pursuing unscrupulous practices such as farm washing. Does the Minister agree with me that we should now re-look at the Groceries Code Adjudicator and consider whether it's fit for purpose?
I thank my honourable friend for her question. The Grocery Code Adjudicator's annual survey shows high levels of compliance amongst the supermarkets, but there is in fact a statutory review that will commence next month, and I would encourage her and all of the stakeholders to contribute towards that.
Now it's Chris Law.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. President US has said, and I quote, that the EU was created to screw over the US. But while the EU stood up for the economy and imposed a £2 billion counter-tariff, it's the UK being screwed by the US who's made it clear that the UK will not be an exception to its levies, despite the Prime Minister's pleading. So tell me, Minister, is the government content to remain a bridge between the EU and the US if it's a bridge that the US continues to walk all over, risking the UK economy with every single step?
The simple position is that we will represent the UK's national interest in this matter, and when it comes to the objections the US has about the significant deficits in manufacturing goods they have with China and the EU, that is not the relationship between the US and the UK, and there is the chance for the UK therefore to pursue a different policy, one that actually produces greater benefits for every part of the UK than perhaps is available to other countries. So of course we're cognizant of the overall impact. No one wants to see this kind of turmoil in the global economy, but our job is to deliver for the UK, and that is exactly what we're focused on doing.
Amanda Hack.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Rural businesses in North West Leicestershire highlight the lack of accessible public transport, including having no passenger rail, as a barrier to attracting new employees and growth. What conversations have the Minister had with the Department of Transport about the barriers rural businesses are facing?
Minister.
Well, I thank my honourable friend for that question, and we know that rural businesses want to see more investment in bus services and better transport infrastructure. She will appreciate that the Chancellor announced in the budget some £650 million plus in terms of funding for local transport, which is designed to support everyday journeys and to improve transport connections. And I'm sure too that she will welcome the Better Buses Bill, which is coming in to give local authorities...
Logan. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Scotland's goods exports to the US were worth over £3.7 billion last year, and Scotch whisky exports were £971 million, the largest slice by value. If the Prime Minister cannot protect the UK and Scottish steel industries, how can Scottish people be sure that he will be able to protect our whisky industry from malicious US tariffs?
Mr. Speaker, I can assure you we're in regular touch with the Scotch Whisky Association. We fully appreciate the significance and importance of that industry, not just to Scotland but to the UK. And as my right honourable friend, the Secretary of State, said, we are well served by a serious Prime Minister in these serious times that affords us the opportunity for a dialogue on trade, frankly not available to other countries.
Through the Select Committee, Liam Byrne.
Mr. Speaker, President Trump's new tariffs are double trouble for Britain's steel and aluminium supplies. They'll dent £350 million worth of sales, but they also risk swamping the UK with over-subsidised Chinese steel diverted from America. What is the Secretary of State's game plan now to redouble defences for our UK metal makers?
I'm incredibly grateful to the Chair of the Select Committee for that question. He is right to say the challenge here is not just the direct trade we have with the US, but the impact of trade diversion. He knows we already have 16 anti-dumping, anti-subsidy measures in place against 14 separate product categories. Once the annual tariff-free quota is hit, a 25% tariff applies to those. I can tell him and the House today, though, that I will support UK Steel's application to the Trade Remedies Authority for a review of the steel safeguards. We do have to think about what comes after that that, and a new one for the aluminium sector too.
David Mundell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm sure that ministers will join me in welcoming the £90 million investment by dairy firm Arla in the plant in my constituency, which will create up to 90 jobs. And doesn't this reinforce that agriculture remains at the heart of the rural economy in constituencies like mine? And shouldn't the government be supporting that industry rather than trying to destroy it?
Mr. Speaker, I can assure you that we do welcome the investment of which the right honourable gentleman speaks. Speaking on behalf of the constituency of East Lothian, I recognise fully the importance of the rural economy and agriculture's contribution thereto. That's why we're in regular dialogue with the NFU and other key stakeholders.
Claire Hazelgrove.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Together with the Startup Coalition, I recently held a roundtable with brilliant local startups working out a future space at the University of the West of England. Issues that they've been facing for a long time include accessing the same opportunities and support for growth as larger businesses. Could the Minister please set out what support his department will be providing so that our very smallest businesses can thrive too?
Mr. Speaker, one of the big issues that small businesses wanting to scale up face is around access to finance. We're actively working across government on what else we can do to support businesses get access to the finance they need, including through the British Business Bank.
Ellie Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In my constituency of North Herefordshire, a planning moratorium has been in place for more than 5 years due to water pollution. This has had an estimated effect of £500 million on the local construction industry, despite the fact that new house building is a minute proportion of the problem. Will the Secretary of State meet with me and representatives of the Herefordshire construction industry to try to find a solution to this devastating problem?
Grateful to the honourable member for that question. The kind of frustration she has there, which I can comes across in her question, is exactly the sort of problem we're fixing as a government. We'd be more than happy to work with her and any Secretary of State or Department necessary to unblock that for her.
Buckley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Could the Minister outline what steps the Department is taking to help increase trade with the Asia Pacific and in particular with the Philippines, where a major local company from my Shrewsbury constituency called Beaver Bridges is hoping to expand and grow significantly with the trade support of this government?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Speaker, I happen to be meeting with the Philippine government next week, although alas in London, not in Manila. The department is working hard to agree a government-to-government financing framework partnership. That's just part of the work that we have underway, and if I can be of direct assistance to her and to her local business, of course I'd be happy to speak to her.
Levels.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Invest in Women Task Force aims to drive investment in female-powered businesses at every stage. This includes putting more money in the hands of female investors, as we know that women back women. Does the Minister agree that one solution to tackle the gender disparity in investment decision-making roles would be to set a minimum level of female representation for all investment committees that receive British Business Bank funding?
I thank the honourable member. She's absolutely right. There's a strong correlation between the proportion of women on an investment committee and the proportion of female founders receiving investment. My department leads the Investing in Women Code, whose 270 signatories commit to supporting the female entrepreneurship, and one of the key metrics we track is the gender balance on investment committees and investment teams. I'm pleased to say the Code signatories significantly outperform the wider market in their support for female founders. Investment funds backed by the British Business Bank are expected to sign up for the Code, and the bank itself is a signatory.
Ewan Steinbeck.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Over 100 jobs were lost in Falkirk since September due to the previous government's failure to keep their commitments to the bus manufacturing sector. We need a plan for bus manufacturing. Has the Minister engaged with the Department for Transport, the bus manufacturing industry or regional mayors prior to the bus expert panel?
My honourable friend asked a very good question, and I'm very pleased that the Department of Transport launched today the new UK Bus Manufacturing Export Panel. We need to support manufacturing of our buses, both in terms of the transition on net zero and building our businesses in the UK. Very happy to work with him on that.
Right, that completes questions. From bench change over.